All right. So we met the other night, and you told me that you have a different, I guess, idea of the feminine, masculine aspects and where we're at. Where are we at in the world with these energies, from your opinion?
It's hard to uh, articulate everything because everyone's threshold and it's such a polarizing topic and people are so easily triggered and everyone's in their feelings. I like to bring it back and let's have conversation and dialogue like out here in front of us to where it's not personal attacks. I think just the rhetoric I've seen is like men complaining about women, women complaining about men. And I could go deeper into that, but I think what we need is more dialogue and understanding. I think that in the last 100 years or since the rise of feminism, there's been this uptick of like putting men down and not really acknowledging men. And I'm not trying to play victim card on either side. There has just been a trend. And I think that we really need to work to understand each other. Whatever has happened in the past or whatever people's past experiences are, it doesn't mean that the new people did that to you or it's happening. So I think that it even comes back to even like a holistic lifestyle perspective is we should enter every new moment fresh start. Why are we bringing baggage from the past? If a man was cheated on or has some bad experiences with a woman, that is there. It's no longer like true now. And same thing with a woman. If a woman was lied to and a man like manipulated or vice versa, right? Like men and women, everyone has their flaws. So I think that we need to be more compassionate as humans. And remember, this is a human. They have a heart, they have a soul, they have a body, they have a mom, they have a dad, they're a part of someone's family. And I think we need to get back to that human level before we go even into the man and woman.
Good answer.
That's the intro. Should I continue? Yeah. So like polarizing topics. I'm someone come from traditional conservative family. Father's a cardiologist, mom's a homemaker. Also have Pakistani, Irani, Middle Eastern background and Islamic religious values. I was raised as men. We always take care of women. We protect, we provide, we're sweet, we help out, we support. There is no like hating or undermining women. We lift women up. That's the way I was raised. I see how society reflects like people of my background and what they think. So I just think people are living in like a disillusioned way where they really don't understand and they just judge and assume and put in boxes because that's what the ego likes. So it's just for like comfort. You can just like place people in boxes. Now to go a little bit deeper into that topic is, yeah, I'm like traditional and conservative. I know what my preferences are. It doesn't mean like it's a judgment. Like let's say if I've seen so many women get triggered. Let's say if I want like a woman who's happy to be a wife and a homemaker, like that's not a personal attack to anyone else. If you want to you want to do whatever you want, that's fine. Like this is a common rhetoric amongst men as well, is why do we get blamed for our preferences? If a woman wants a tall man who's handsome, he's charming, he's funny, he earns a lot, men, we're just like, yeah, that's just how it is. We have to become. We don't get triggered like by whatever it is that we're lacking, or at least I don't.
So why do you think that is?
I think because naturally men are the gender that pursues. So in order to pursue, you must learn to what that which you're pursuing responds well to. I think women and girls in general are used to being pursued, that they don't have to think about men. They're usually like, defending or like pushing them off and like trying to figure out like what they want and picking the best of their suitors. So it's a completely different mindset. And I think what's happened, and I've seen this so much, is women don't understand, like a strong, good, masculine man is not going to be pursuing you. He's not going to be like hitting you up, approaching you at a bar, astaghfirullah, and like going into your DNA. Like I'll just say about me, like I'm pursuing a mission. I'm pursuing a legacy. I want to be the best man I can be so I can be the best father I can be and the best at everything that I do. I'm not going to leave all my mission for a woman, and a woman would resent me even for doing that. So I think most women have exposure to men or boys or males that are not really the ones that they want. So we need to discern attention from respect.
So then how do you actually come into union then? If you like, yeah.
Well, intentionally courting someone is very much different than sliding in a DM, pursuing just for biological reasons, right? Just to be intimate with someone or just to do that. And I think that on both sides, right? Like I'm not a perfect human. So it's like men and women need to be self-aware and then spend time to get to know the other gender. Like if I want a wife, I need to think about, okay, well, the way I look at it, how do I become the best man I can be to where the wife I want, she's gonna be in love with her life if she's with me. It's not about settling. Like she's gonna feel like the luckiest woman alive, genuinely. I don't want to manipulate her into thinking that. I want whoever I'm with to feel that way, and vice versa. So then a woman needs to spend time becoming what she thinks is going to complement my life the best, where I feel so blessed and grateful to be with her. I think a lot of times we just think that we deserve. No, we don't deserve. We earn things in life.
So masculine, feminine energies, you already gave a good intro about it. I think we covered that. I would say next, how would you describe, like they always say men and women are just wired differently, right? So like, what's your explanation of that from your point of view? Because I'm curious.
There's so many different ways you could approach it or even take it. Something that I think of, especially with my background, is biologically we're different.
Yeah.
You cannot, and I know, see, this is a triggering topic. I was even thinking about on the way here, like I think that we are equal in value, equal in importance, equal in opportunity. All that is all good, but you cannot be equal if my biological parts are different. You know, like even just from a rational, logical standpoint, that doesn't mean there's like a better or worse. Like I think that that's like a trigger and just a negative framework of thinking. Yeah. So the way I look at it is biologically, fundamentally, we're different. I also have, from my spiritual beliefs, my religious beliefs, a clear differentiation between some of our roles, our obligations, how we show up in the world, what our roles are with our family, with society, with community. So from a biological fundamental level, as well as development, you know, from a biological holistic health perspective, we're different. We must acknowledge, let's take a neutral subject, strength training. When I am dialed in and serving a man versus a woman, that's a different approach. A woman has a cycle. Her hormones, her physiology changes throughout the month. I need to acknowledge that. If I give a man and a woman the same style of training program, I don't think we're going to get great results.
So like tailoring it to man versus woman.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, so women have a cycle. Women give birth. Those are things a man will never experience. There are certain challenges, struggles, certain benefits, pros, cons, or however you want to label it, that are just different. And I know in a secular, maybe a non-God conscious way of looking at it, you get down to these nitty-gritty details, but I have a belief that everything in nature and in life is imperfectly perfect, and it's all being divinely orchestrated. So I have belief in my creator and God that it's all accounted for, and that being does not make mistakes. So that's just maybe a different philosophy in a lot of modern day rhetoric, because it's not God-centered. And whether, I know some people are triggered by God, but whatever divine source that you want to like call it. So I'm a believer.
Yeah.
And that may like change my perspective a little bit.
Okay. It's a good way to break it down, because like the religious aspects make it very like clear that the man is the man, the woman is the woman. Yeah. But in the world that we're in right now, it's a little blurred lines and new things popping up, so we can't control that. How would you say, like, your perception of, the dynamic of the masculine feminine energy in like the South Asian family culture and stuff? I'm pretty sure we have very similar like backgrounds and upbringing, because my dad was the same, working but like not a doctor or anything. He had gas stations and went that route, and my mom was at home, so I saw that dynamic. But I'm curious, from your point of view, seeing the polarities and if it worked, where you think things could have been like more, what's the word, like if there was any disturbances and stuff, like what could help the situation between the male and female in a South Asian family? Because I feel like it's really prevalent right now with everything going on in the world, with women being at work and balancing all the things. It's a lot.
There's so many transitions that have happened. And yeah, for those with, South Asian or Middle Eastern, or honestly, any background, I can bring it as a general consensus for everyone. Yeah. Foundational alignment of principles, core values, mission, belief systems. Things don't have to be perfect. I think that there needs to be like a common thread, and it's alignment to work together. Now, it's a big part of the inner work that we do and having that perspective, right? So each one of us can look at our lives or look at our parents and our families and list all the grievances or things that didn't happen and play victim, which all of us can do. And I'm sure we have done that. I know I've done that too. Or we can be like, always lead with the grace and compassion that they were doing the best that they could under their environments. And yes, we do have a unique style of doing things, but I think the main question and the point you're making is communication. One needs to spend enough time in reflection with oneself and learn how to speak and learn how to articulate your thoughts and synergize them with your emotions to convey that to someone else. I think a big component of love is missed if it's not expressed. I know that, I have no complaints and nothing but positive things. I love my family and I'm in a good place with everyone, but yeah, like things aren't expressed. There wasn't much affection. There wasn't much communication. It can be any immigrant family, because if there's a different culture and a different language, that's huge barriers. So like for people like us and even myself, my parents grew up in a different world, a different time, but also a completely different cultural world. I grew up here, so I'm like very American culturally, actually. Yeah, I don't know if that like it kind of touched on, because we could go on and on about it, but I think it really does come with one's self-awareness, one's ability to articulate self-respect, to have boundaries. When your yes is a yes, it needs to be 100% yes. When your no is a no. Yeah, exactly. And then I think there's so much, and I wouldn't just say our community, but we need to talk to one another. I think that is, it's kind of true, but like the gossip, the riba, and just like talking about people. So one of my biggest things that I just really don't like is talk to me. I'm here. Yeah. If you talk about me, that energetically is just like, it's just off. And it's like, you can literally bully someone, you can tarnish their reputation. Energetically, it's just not okay. So I think we need to just grow the courage. If you got something to say, be able to say it to someone, to their face, or just don't say it at all. It's like all the old adages are like, irrelevant.
And that's so like prevalent in our society, where it's just like people hold things in, they keep it stored, and then they hold on to these resentments and they can't let things go. And it's just like, okay, like I like that you bring up the compassion thing though, because it's also giving grace to our parents that didn't know any better, that got dropped into the US dynamic and trying to figure things out. And like I think back, like if I was in their shoes, how would I be any better? Like that's just it.
We can't compare. And I think that comes with maturity and thought. And sometimes we could even give them more grace. Maybe they did know better, but maybe circumstances. I think there's things probably for you and I and so many people where it's like, you wish you could do something to help someone feel better or change outcomes. But that's where but that's also where it comes back to, we're not in control. We're merely in control of our thoughts, our actions, our words, our actions, and our behaviors and the character we develop. But if we do believe that there is more beyond us, and it's not just about us, that, sometimes we're the universal flow, the God-centered lifestyle is, we're being guided.
Yeah.
And, sometimes like, so many times people are in a relationship and you're trying everything to make it work. And then you may just like taking it out on each other, but maybe God has something different in store for you, and it's not the other person's fault. One thing that I've learned too is, why communication is like so important. People have this idea of like expectations without agreement is just not going to work. And it doesn't feel good for either party. Also, the idea you have to accept someone. They're a living being. And then when you can articulate, communicate, but relationships, I think in our time too, it's like, what can you do for me? Yeah. But even when I was talking in my talk before, it's like service. Mm-hmm. So even in relationships, it is service. Like, I want a woman who serves, but sometimes women will get triggered, but I'm going to serve you too. Yeah, but it's just like, I think that we need to like lighten up, work through our stuff, and be able to clearly communicate. And then if you're more chill and relaxed, you can just appreciate people for where they're at on their journey. And yeah,
I think you summed that up good. I'm going to shift into gears because it got dropped into me. So we talked a little bit about family dynamics with masculine and feminine. Now I'm going to get into the workplace dynamics, because that's a whole thing too. Like I can tell you my experience being the boss, being the leader, that kind of thing, and being hyper in my masculine and seeing and feeling what that was like and what that did to me. I was depleted. I was lashing out at everyone. Like, it got me so worked up because you have so much pressure and everyone's looking at you to do everything. So I'm curious from your point of view of like, in the workplace, do you notice that these energies also now affect that too? Like, are you noticing it in your field?
100%. Like we said in the beginning, if you look at a hierarchical approach, we are human beings. We're a soul experiencing life in a physical vessel. Now, at the root of that, of humanity, the next level is like your gender. So men and women has a completely different biology blueprint for life. That's going to transpire into everything that you do. How you digest foods, how you work, what your hormonal level is, your ability to reproduce. Like, fundamentally, it's higher up. Work is not a biological predisposition. So like soul, human, now male, woman. Everybody can do whatever they want to do. As a holistic health provider, I know how having a general one-size-fits-all for men will wreak havoc. We're just different. I don't need to get into some things because people will get like triggered, but we're just designed differently. Some of us are capable for different things. I think God designed us to have complementary characteristics. And I mean, I'll say one thing that it may be somewhat like misconstrued, but I just know like I cannot be led by a woman. And I would say a lot of men could say that. And sometimes women will say that too, because if you don't know my experience, how are you gonna like lead me? And some of us, we're just different. So people can do whatever they want, but that's also being self-aware. So I happen to be on more of the spectrum of like masculine dominant energy. There's a whole spectrum of masculinity. There's a whole spectrum of femininity. So I think you seek harmony when you find your equal and opposite. I think if you have like a hyper masculine woman and like a hyper masculine man, that it's just going to clash, right? So let's say in a relationship too. So there's so many different ways to look at that, but essentially there needs to be harmony and a balancing act. But I will say that when we're outside of ourselves and not acting in harmony with like who we are and what our path is and what we're here to do, there's going to be dis-ease. So that can show up, and that's going to show up in your health, your hormone, kind of like what you shared. And so I'm all for, but that's like, let's say if I was prancing around wearing like dresses in the workplace, I'm like, I would not feel good. How could I step in and be a doctor if I was like hyper feminine? So I think femininity is beautiful, and so is masculinity. But when we hone in those skills, there's a place for everyone.
Balance, really.
Yin and yang, and you just gotta. There's a harmony for everyone. So like, kind of what we were talking about. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Even in relationships, it's not about like all masculine men are good or all masculine men are toxic or feminine. No, there's a spectrum. And I think that you just need to find someone that fits for you, right? And that's about being self-aware and finding out.
I guess I'll bring it back to the workplace, because for me, so I don't even know if I shared this with you. The longest relationship I had, which was 4.5 years, was with my videographer. And so he handled my video work and I did photography. So we worked together, but I was his boss. And that was a whole challenge because I had to turn into mom. And then I was holding so much, and it was all these things of codependency and being glued together, me not getting my space. And I learned so much in that relationship. And he's still one of my good friends to this day. I don't just end relationships. I stay very like, I want to have peace. So, but what I noticed in me was like, it was bringing up some really dark feelings and just like this side of me that I don't like that's my shadow side. And in the workplace, it was like I couldn't come to be my happy, feminine, like support everyone, be good vibes, when he was there challenging me. And he was like just always in my ear, undermining me, making me feel that I wasn't doing things right. And we were just in such a toxic place. And it was all in the workplace. So like we would go into weddings with that energy. And that's really why I got into energy work, was because I was like, what is this? Because we would get in a fight and we would go shoot a wedding and everything would go wrong.
Okay, I like this, and thanks for sharing that. All right, if we're gonna have the real raw version, I don't think that works personally. So I have compassion and grace, like for people in general. Like I don't judge. Like as long as you're not harming people, like do your thing. Don't impose your beliefs and opinions on others. But in general, like for me, that doesn't work. And in masculine, feminine dynamics, like it'll be a struggle. It's not going to be. I'll just say this: it's not going to be optimal. We are wired differently, and there's a spectrum of masculinity. I wouldn't say everyone. I think there's an initiation, and a male has to earn manhood. You have to become a man. You don't just become a man, right? We have a lot of like males, or if we're not mature yet, and things like that. There's evolutions. But part, I think, of our just way that we are, and this is just collective from my perspective, also speaking to a lot of men, coaching, helping a lot of men, our primary source of purpose and fulfillment is like leading and serving our families first, and then our community. If a man is in like a subordinate position, that's like his livelihood cut off. I can't see a man thriving in that. But if he's a very feminine, like there are these house husbands and things like that, and that's fine.
That works.
That works for some people. But I will say, if you want more of like a traditional role, like the man, I desire so much fulfillment. I'm not like married or have a family yet, but even for my family or my community, or like in going to work and serving and providing that space of safety, protection, whether it be like wellness and like my profession. So I think sometimes like a male will act out because inside they don't, it's not really about the other person. That's where it comes back to, like, sometimes, and in my development, I haven't always been where I'm at now. In maturity, you start to learn actually everything is an inside job. So it's all about how we are and where we are and can we articulate. So that's why it's very important to be self-aware, to be able to communicate before you enter relationships, because I think what happens is a lot of times people want a relationship, then they see like what it entails, or it like triggers all these things.
It's the way to learn. Like that whole relationship was just like so much growth of just understanding what I could accept, what I needed to improve with me. But like what I could see and feel so clearly was just like, this dynamic does not work for me. Like I do not want to be a boss for my boyfriend. And I don't want to run him like that. I don't want that pressure. Like I want to be able to relax and just like chill with, like, which we had actually we were really better as friends.
I do have a point that I want to just shed light on. Is I've heard from so many women about like, and while they're in their masculine, is like, I'm waiting for a more masculine man to like do that. Okay, so let's say if I'm acting like a female and a feminine woman's not going to be attracted to that. And let's say that I'm like, never working, not doing anything, and like feminine behavior and things like that. And I'm like, when I find a good woman, then I'm going to be like a man. So I think that people just have things all backwards. It's like, and if you attribute spirituality, law of attraction, like become first, be that, then you can attract it. So like I see, and I know, I mean, this is a deeper rabbit hole to go into, because like the rise of feminism and the rise of some of these ideologies, like maybe part of the intention is good because some of the ways things happened before, but things become toxic. And when you know ideology's origination, you really should like study history and take a deeper dive, because if you look at the world, not everything is necessarily like for us, because we have more than enough resources, land, abundance, energy, that all human beings could be eating, drinking clean water, and having shelter. So we don't need to die. So like some of these things are like, you can destroy society by introducing and like hypersexualizing society, by creating like no gender. So there's literally no order.
Yeah, it's really taking the family system out, and like, y'all don't need to be together. You're better separate. And like, I've just always, that never resonated with me at all. But like, I could see how easily you can get pulled into that, because you go through these like karmic relationships, and then you get all up in like, well, my power, like, that's literally what it is right now. I know for the women's side, it's like, well, if he's not what you want, or if you're with a narcissist, now you have to claim your power, and it just pushes you into that direction all the way through.
Yeah, but that's not a solution. And I will say that, I mean, in religions, that's why they say don't even get in a relationship. Like this dating and stuff doesn't exist. You just get married. because then you also don't have all these traumas and all these things that you're enacting.
But we're in this world. So
Yeah.
it's like, how do you, like, now I get it. Now I understand. And now I'm being very discerning, like, when it comes to dating. Like, I don't even care to date.
Well, I think dating nowadays, they're like, most people are not aware of themselves, and they have conditioned beliefs and ideologies and traumas and things that you haven't worked through. It's very rare to find someone who is aware of themselves, they communicate, and they're relaxed. Like, they can be like, okay, like, that's interesting. Like, if someone says something triggering, you should be like, okay, like, that's interesting. Like, why do you think that way? But all right, good to meet you. Like, I wish you well in your life, but not like,
I don't have to get involved.
Yeah, I don't have to get involved, because if you get involved, you're an active player. No one's victim. So the victim consciousness needs to be eradicated.
Yeah,
and
that's on all platforms.
On all platforms, but I also like sometimes I'm just like, okay, like anything with relationships, you cannot go into victim consciousness, because that is like a first world problem. Like, if you have your needs met, if you have like water, shelter, food, and like your basic biological needs, like, you don't need a relationship. That is a choice that you've made. So I think that, not to like undermine anyone who's been in bad situations, but just to highlight that there's a lot of people out there who can't get relationships. There's a lot of boys and men who are too scared to approach a woman, that they've never experienced what it's like to talk or communicate with opposite sex, for men and for women.
Oh my gosh, we could get into that. That needs to be a whole other episode. Because like, my nephew is 14, and I'm always joking with him, and I'm like, so who do you like at school, and like, who's your crush? And he bounces between like 3 different girls, but now it's back to one, and like, he really likes her. And I'm just like, let's open up dialogue about it, like, talk about it, instead of this repression. Because what I noticed me growing up was repress, repress, repress. And then I just started to get really good at lying and doing stuff secretly and feeling bad about it, that type of thing.
Yeah, there's a whole other cycle with that. Suppression and repression, the guilt, the shame, the fear. I think that it's a fine line, and it's not easy, but the more like we work on ourselves, and the more we have these dialogues, for sure, like, it doesn't matter if they're young. Like, kids are in tune with themselves. Maybe they don't have the wisdom and the experience that comes through life experience. Yeah, but I think the most stifling way to grow is where you feel suppressed. I think you need to be able to express. There should be order. I think a lot of what we're dealing with now is, it's either hyper rigidity and too much structure, and the kid feels suffocated, or it's freedom to like go do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that,
There's
like,
no balance.
yeah, but that's where presence. Like, if you're a parent, you're gonna bring kids into this world. Like, that's a commitment you got to make to be present. You can't treat every kid the same. Every day is not the same. That's where dropping in, listening, active listening, and giving a voice. Like, so much of my life is not feeling seen or heard, and being the youngest. It's not even like I need that much. Just, if we're all human, we need to be heard. That's a part of love and expression. Like, if you're never able to speak, and someone's given like a perfect life, I still don't think you'll be happy.
Yeah.
Because you need that connection and belonging.
What's interesting about both of us, we're both the youngest of 5, right? Or you're 4? You're 4. Yeah, 4. But still, like, that dynamic of all the siblings not feeling seen, not feeling heard, but then we're kind of the ones that go on this rabbit hole journey of like self-discovery and figure yourself out, and like, we got to understand each other and stuff, whereas our siblings are like a little bit not on that wavelength as much, or like they're coming to it slower or something like that. That's the case in my family. Well,
it just depends. I think we all do things. We all have our own unique journeys, and it's different. Every family is different, right? It's like, I know for me, I don't like being put in boxes like, oh, you're the youngest, and like, people have all these judgments and predispositions. I think probably something that would be so medicinal in this world is if we looked at the awe, we stayed in presence and gratitude, and be like, oh my God, like, there's this human in front of me. Like, what can I learn from them, and how can our lives be amplified together? And what, as opposed to, okay, it's a man, boom, or it's a female, boom, there's one box. Oh, they're Pakistani, oh, they're white, they're Asian, boom, another box.
Yeah.
Now, oh, he said this, boom. And you literally, within 30 seconds or a minute, you've already completely limited that human's experience and expression. And that person could have become your best friend. They could have become your husband or your wife. It could have been a business partner, but you have completely annihilated them. And it takes self-awareness, because the thing that I dislike the most, and when people undermine me, like put me in boxes, limit me, or like stifle my growth. So I do my best. I'm just like, okay, you're this vessel. Yes, I have observations. I have these experiences, but like, show me who you are, and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then that way, like, how we treat one another is more a reflection of how we treat ourselves, and the dialogue and what we got going on in between our own two ears. So it's like, if you don't want to be limited, you don't want to be put in a box, don't do that to others.
Yeah.
As the golden rule is, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's so simple. It's just like,
everyone has their own unique experience and
yeah.
their lens. We talked about masculine, feminine.
I could talk about that for forever.
Yeah,
And like, there's so many
much.
layers, because like in one conversation or in one
It's
idea
hard to
plane,
do.
yeah, because there's so much. So I think a big part of my life's work and passion is being a masculine supportive figure, being like a role model, or whatever I can do, right? I'm not perfect. I never want to be put on a pedestal, but not only do I want to be the best man I can be, I also want to like support that, and also just for humanity too, because I think there is a lot of like pushback, and men commit suicide so much more, and like there's a lot of things against men these days, and that, to say that doesn't undermine anything women experience. And I think that's the problem, is people always people go like, no, just hear the idea, let the thought go through, extract anything, take a deep breath, and then respond. I just feel like people just like,
everyone's on
edge. Yeah, like, please just learn how to breathe. Drop business card. And like, I'll teach you how to breathe and relax, so that, you know, we can have, see me, and I got other professionals I can put you in contact with, so that, you know, like.
Yeah, let's talk about this. That's a really good topic, because I love that how much we're bringing up of being self-aware, being very present in ourselves. And I think because we're in a world where we're like on edge and everyone is so easily triggered, it's like you really need to talk about this. Like how important it is to be in your own body, in your own mind, to really spend time with yourself instead of looking to someone else to fill that cup up for you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, it doesn't even make any sense for someone to fill your cup up. And I can, I'll start from a foundational component, and it doesn't matter like what faith or what your belief system is, but we come into this world on our own as a single soul, and that's how we're also going to leave. That is the most important relationship with ourselves and with our creator, or whatever our belief system is. It's no one else's responsibility to fix what's inside of here. It is important for people to be respectful, to be kind, and to surround ourselves by people that, like support us. But the inner work is our work, and everyone's on their own journey. And most people, until you put the work in, I think that we have, like, in general, and this is a generality, it's like we got the blind leading the blind. We got a lot of people, no one needs to be perfect, but we got a lot of people talking out their heads, and a lot of people talking that really haven't earned that platform to be speaking about certain topics. And, we need more humility across the board. We need more open-mindedness. We need more inquisitive nature, as opposed to just talking like it's a matter of fact. And that's also on the receiver side. It's like listening or seeking answers. Nothing in life is black and white. This moment, right now, will never be here ever again. I know some people have different beliefs, or even about, like reincarnation. This lifetime in this body will never come back. So if we have more presence in the moment, we'll realize the sanctity of each moment, of each day. Kind of went on a tangent there,
Oh, that was good.
but we need to return. This is home, and then if we want to build a home, what kind of energy do we want to be around? What kind of energy do we need to cultivate? But I want to throw this in there, because there is a whole like be the energy you want to attract. From a man's perspective, I have seen, and I'm not the only one, where it doesn't mean be like a man. So like if a woman is attracted to an ambitious, driven man, that does not mean a man is attracted to the same qualities that a woman is. So what I've noticed a lot, and like, let's just say if I was getting, and they're like, I'm ambitious, and like, okay, you just noted a lot of qualities that like you want in a man, but we're like equals and opposites and polar. Like we want complementary qualities.
Yeah. So what would you say with them?
Complement. Okay, so like let's say there's certain like masculine traits and feminine traits, and it's a spectrum. And like I like to protect myself from all the triggers, but like I want someone like feminine, supportive, nurturing. I don't necessarily, yes, maybe like ambition and like life goals, but I won't match well with someone who's career oriented, because I'm very career oriented and ambitious in that way. So I want someone who complements that, and vice versa. Like I think in any healthy relationship there needs to be a harmony, and like the puzzle has to fit. You can't put a square peg in like a circular hole.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the same thing you're saying: communication, articulation, and like preferences. And don't fault people for their preferences.
Yeah.
Let them think. Let them have the space to figure themselves out and figure out what they want. But yeah, I think that's a huge thing that comes up. Is I've seen that a lot, and like the issue too is like men were not really. I feel like there is, and I'm developing my voice and will in the space, but a lot of men don't want to talk because they don't want to get canceled. Because like, so if a man says something, then we'll get, like, there is a huge blowback. For men, like if you talk trash about men, we're just going to eat it for the most part. We're just, yeah, because we're used to those dynamics.
Yeah.
So.
It's a hard world out there, but.
Yeah, but it's a good world. It's a lot of opportunities for growth and alchemy.
To understand each other, that like we can't force someone to be something they're not. I think that's the disconnect.
That's a huge disconnect. And also, do we force or control someone to want to be with us or whatever it is? Because do we really want to live a life like that? We want to choose and be chosen. Yeah. I think a lot of, the Disney, the fairy tale, this, that, and the other. All the societal and cultural propaganda and like brainwashing is, I think the only way, and especially in the modern era, the two people will come together in union and have like a loyal, like the beautiful, picturesque thing that most people want, is through putting yourself second. Or even third. So it's like God has to be at the forefront, or whatever you say. It's like the bigger idea, the bigger picture, whatever you want to call it. Like if you're just living in your desires and you're self-centered, I'm sorry, who even wants to be around that energy? Yeah. And then secondarily, like love, one of the definitions, right, is like, putting someone else before your own. So with that framework, but that's where we have to do the inner work. And are we actually showing up that way, or do we want to be treated that way? Without offering it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because it's kind of like, that's what you see a lot. It's just people are so like not aware of themselves, but they're thinking like the other person's gonna help them figure it out, or it's the savior dynamic that can change you.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah,
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, but it's me. Okay, so I think self-centered it can have a different connotation. Self-aware, being, yeah, you need to take care of yourself first, for sure. You need an overflowing cup. But when it's in excess to where you don't consider other people and you don't even have the wherewithal to see how your energy is impacting others, or like, do you even care how the person in front of you, of like the background that they have? And that's we're all a work in progress, but yeah, that's a huge thing, is me. What can this person do for me? And I'm sorry, like, that's not.
You go to God first.
Yeah, no, and service, remember? So it's like, for me, I definitely, like, if a woman, this is a personal but also a different idea. If a woman has an issue with submission, there is just no chance that I would even like be interested, because I submit to God. And like, so that's even the bigger idea. So like, I think that if a woman has a hard time submitting, for me, it shows me that she isn't even submitted to God.
Wow,
Because like, you submit to a man for the purpose of and through God. So it's like, that just automatically shows the control and the restriction, because like, yes, I want to be in the male leadership role and I want to be the dominant one, but are you kidding? Everything I'm going to have is from my family. Yeah, because they have either spent time with the wrong men or been brainwashed, because true, divine, mature, masculine energy lifts you up, supports, provides, protects, and leads. You need that, and you want that. Even if you don't know it subconsciously, it's inherent in us. It's like our roles, and that's how we were biologically predisposed culturally throughout thousands of years. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. There's some things, and like, I think, yeah, we just gotta accept our roles and where we are, and learn to make the best of it, right? It's like me, let's say I'm like, why wasn't I born like 6'3" and I could have fulfilled my basketball dreams? Like, I got to get over that.
Yeah.
If I just, yeah, exactly. And we are who we are. So like, as a man, it comes with its challenges. I love it. Wouldn't change it for the world. I own everything. Bring it on. Whatever adversity we have, bring it on. I'm the person that has to give in my life. Come on, that's fine. I own and take honor in being a man. So I think like women can do the same as well. Like, yes, you are the species that propagates us. You create life. Like, we need that. It shouldn't be like trying to be like us.
Yeah, but that's, gosh, it's where the world has positioned a lot of the women and stuff, like with having to be in the workplace and having to fill these roles. And then it gets to your head. Like, I know even for me, it was this pressure. I have to take care of my family. I have to show up as the man in my family. And I'm like, this is going against everything in me.
Yeah.
Everything in me. And that's what then I had to do the work of just like, I don't have to take that burden on. I have to set boundaries. I have to protect myself. And I gotta like nurture my feminine back. And it's taken so long, but I'm very thankful for the journey. Cause like, I don't want that old life. I don't want to just be so hyper masculine that like I'm pushing away the right opportunities and the right men. But I've also had to do a lot of healing around the masculine in my life, and looking at relationship with dad, brothers, ex-boyfriends, ex-husband, like seeing the patterns of that. Like, I was taught this bubble diagram technique. Have you ever heard of that?
I think you were mentioning something about some bubble.
Yeah.
So
what you do is you write for a man. What you would do is write your mom in the middle, and then you write all the qualities, all the characteristics, good, bad, everything, all on the side. Then you go to the next woman that was prevalent, maybe sister or multiple sisters. Then you go to the relationships, and you literally start to pick apart like the things that there's patterns, like the unavailability.
are they all qualities? So like, positive, negative, neutral? Okay, yeah.
And then you literally then can track the similar qualities that you've been kind of
recycling.
programmed.
Yeah.
So I did that with my dad, and I did it with my brothers, I did it with my ex-husband and then ex-boyfriends, and I could track it. And it was so clear right there, like what I was going after was like this distorted perception I had
Yeah.
about the masculine my whole life. Really wild thing to do.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I mean, all these exercises and just opportunities to go inward and reflect. And I also say that with a grain of salt, as far as like, we want to do the inner work, but we also want to be lighthearted and like laugh at ourselves. I think that that's like the most important to do, is like laugh at our old self, laugh at like our flaws, everything. It's all just part of the path.
Yeah.
So,
You gotta
and not take
enjoy it,
ourselves
too.
too seriously, and try to make the journey fun. And that's a huge area that I'm working on figuring out, is how do we make education, coming back home to ourselves, learning about health and doing all this stuff like fun. We all just, I don't like people. I didn't know how to breathe. Most people don't know how to breathe. Like, instead of like taking it as a judgment, like just be lighthearted about it and like
We all
be
don't
like,
know how to breathe.
yeah. So it's like, and that's foundation number one.
Yeah.
So as far as from a like a physiological perspective, and that does impact relationships, because it impacts the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
So
It's like it comes back to self, and then it
Yeah.
comes back to others.
yeah.
Comes back to God, and like all of it.
Yeah, so I like one of my teachers. He would talk about like I, we, all. That's why you got to take I. Once I, then there can be a we. Once there's the we, then you can affect all. A lot of times people are like trying to save the world, and they don't even know their left from their right.
Yeah.
So it's like the intention may be great, but that's why intention and action need to be incongruent. And we got to be honest with ourselves. Kind of like what you were saying, though, is this is maybe a challenge, right? Is okay, so let's say there's a woman, she doesn't like have a good relationship with her father, she doesn't have a brother, and then she just gets in relationships with guys. And most women don't realize that it's very hard pressed to get a man to be completely genuine and honest with you that's not your father or like your brother or someone who has absolutely no like sexual inclination towards you. Like women will say all the time about guy friends, stuff like that. Like, yes, it's on a rare occasion. I'm not going to like paint the broad stroke, but it's like you'll end up with delusional ideas because you don't really know, like, if someone loves and cares for you and they're protective of you, like what a healthy masculine energy is. And I think that's what's happened with the dissolution of the disembodiment of the family unit. Then now we got all these single parent households and things like that. So there's trauma and trauma and trauma and pain bodies. And then like we no longer have an example of what a healthy, harmonious family unit looks like, and where a man and women are in harmony.
Yeah.
And that sometimes I think for a man's journey, but a woman's journey is like, where are you going to even get that outside reflection? Yeah. Because sometimes like you can be in your own head, but that same level of thinking conscientiously isn't going to get you to your new self. You're going to have some things highlighted or mirrored, or you're going to have to face some uncomfortable truths about ourselves. Yeah. I mean, I've faced a lot within my own self too, in ways I'm showing up, and I still will. But now I'm like okay with the journey, and like
you can understand that.
No, and having humility. Like we're always figuring it out. I definitely think like I've gotten to a certain place where I have a decent amount of wherewithal with understanding who I am, my purpose, my values, what I want, but it's also open to change, and I'm okay with that. And I may say something now that like 5 years from now or even next month I'm gonna be like, dude, you were wrong. But that's all. That's part of the growth, and just being okay with it and letting go, surrendering, trusting.
Yeah. So that's like the big word of my year. Both of those.
Yeah. Well, at the top of the totem pole, that is, and actually when you look at all spiritual philosophies and theologies, it will usually come back to that. I guess we can like transition, but I will say that maybe that could be helpful from a man's perspective. Obviously, like I don't know what a woman's journey is like, but I will say from a man's perspective, and you shouldn't just be surrendering or submitting to everyone, but we all need to like surrender and submit. So for me, I even look at it from like a foundational human element. The less we surrender or submit, the more we're going to try to control. being the type of man I am, I'm extremely independent. I want to be valued for my mind, which is my greatest asset. I want to lead. I do not want to be micromanaged. I want someone to trust my leadership so I can give and provide everything. So one's ability to surrender and let go of control helps someone else, and that's where freedom. Because if a woman is like scared to surrender because of control, can't you see? It's actually no. It's happening vice versa. You don't want to be controlled, so you're controlling.
Yeah.
So I think you can't. It doesn't work though. Both have to lose a certain amount of control. That's where we need to be wise and be discerning and do the things that are in our control, and then the rest we leave up to God.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Really, is like the control. Is just we are so brainwashed and programmed to like want everything so specifically a certain way, or like we want this. And I think even getting down to like the manifestation route and stuff, like how that is wired with things, like, dude, just trust God. Like
100%. But a lot of the things that we think we want, we don't even want. Those ideas aren't even ours. I will say that even myself, I've considered myself to be, a very thoughtful person, even since I was younger, like philosophical, always inquisitive, like having deep thoughts. I was like deep from like the beginning, very silly and playful, but always like inquisitive. Some of the things that I used to think I want, I don't really want anymore. And that's what sometimes we just got to learn to get out of our own way and return to ourselves. What are our core values? What are we really here to do? You can become the most successful person in the world, and you realize you spent 50 years climbing the wrong ladder. That's not even what you want. That's not even the dream you want. It was a dream someone else had for you. Or you were upset at an ex-boyfriend and girlfriend, and you wanted to prove them, and you realize you spent 20 years of your life from a pain, from a trauma, as opposed to removing all that stuff, going inward and getting clear.
Yeah, that's the big part, is just knowing that things can change. Like, the way even I've had my goals, and like I'm looking at my journals and looking back at all my years, because I keep everything, and I'm just like, wow, my focus is so outward. It's so like, I want my business to be like this. I want like, and then now I look at my stuff, and it's very much like I'm asking God, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm here to be for you type of thing. I'm not here for me anymore. And so focus is changing, but I feel better. And like, I'm saying, like, my recent thing was saying no to like thousands of dollars, because someone's throwing it at me that like, this is what's happening to me, where a wedding planner is like, this bride wants to book you, but she wants it for this rate. She can give you 50% down today if you're ready to do it. And it's like way less than my rate. And I was like, this is my test. Like, I have to literally just say no to someone willing to give me like 10 grand because it's not in alignment with what I'm here to do. And that's hard to swallow when you're like, okay, I could use that money. It could help pay for this. Yeah. It could help me with so many things. But now that I'm like God-centered and like focused on that, like everything changes.
Yeah. That would open the door for another conversation, because that comes down to like belief systems, and like how we see our lives. Are we living for this world, or are we also monitoring our eternal abode?
Yeah.
And
I want my freedom.
Yeah, and like, what is coming from someone who like, I want abundance, and I'm in student loans, but still, like, I think I've reached a level of maturity and God consciousness where it's like, no, I'm not selling my soul for anything. I've worked so hard to get this level of peace, and I've not sold out, and I'm not going to. No amount of money. And like, same, like for me as a man, like I won't tolerate disrespect. So it's like, no amount of money can make me go against my core values. And I think that it's not easy to get there, and we're all dealing with our own path, but that's when you're, like the quote you said, we're not, we're in this world, but we're not of this world. So just discerning. Ben, everyone's recipe is different.
Yeah,
So it's like, just because we have our perspectives, like people are free to have theirs.
Like I know other people would love this opportunity to work with them. And I had to like really take myself out of it. I was like, okay, is this ego? Is this like I'm too prideful to not work? But then I was like, no, it's not even about that. It's more so like this, what is it? Like someone wanting to have access to you and your energy, but in their way. But like, I could understand if someone is coming from a place of like, legit, I don't have the money. I can't afford it, but I really want to work with you. Talk to me in that tone.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on. My heart will open.
Yeah.
I have done stuff for people when they open up that way.
Yeah.
But to go about it and
Well, if you're feeling undermined, then energetically it's not aligned. Yeah, because like I would love to, and that's my goal, is to get to a place where I'm good and I can just serve people for free. But it's more. But I'm not going to serve people, but if they're respectful and appreciative, and then that is a value exchange.
That is.
Like when you feel, when you feel value, like it's not just dollars. That's one form of energy. But at the end of the day, it is energy, and it really comes down to value.
It does.
How we value ourselves, how we value others, and like where we place ourselves in the world.
yeah, it's not oftentimes in congruence with just making some money. You know, like that's not why we're here, is what I've been getting.
I guess we're going to wrap up.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
guys see
yeah.
Look, you're like, I gotta go.
No. But I think it trailed off to like the tire, like kind of settling in,
Yeah, that
then
was
talked out.
a good